Oh, अच्छा सुशीला और बच्चला oh life yeah life is Sushila yeah
So I have her first reading like
Other times he was called I am a very lucky man today, especially when I left India. I had one guru there, and that's Professor Swami. And when I reached here, I had another guru here, and that's Dr. Bikram Garcha. Would he please stand up? I would like to recognize him. Dr. Swami, you must see him. This is a connection here, right there. Dr. Bikram Garcha. He was my professor at Georgia State University. Thank you. Respected Honorable Professor Swami and friends. Professor Subramanian Swami, I have at least one milestone in common, and that is we both joined IIT Delhi in the same year, 1969. He joined as the professor of economics, and I as a student of engineering. Therefore, it indeed is an honor for me to introduce my guru, my teacher, with superlative credentials. And that too in this city of Atlanta, a city too busy to hate. All right, now it's hot Atlanta, but it's still a city too busy to hate. There is so much written. I'm sure you must have gotten the program. There's a lot written there, so I'm not going to get into this aspect here because you can read that. I'm going to give you those subtle things from IIT days, which everyone is keen to hear. And I looked at Wikipedia, and Dr. Swami has kind of blocked some of those things there. I'm just joking. There's a lot written here, so you can read that. I wonder if he recalls that he was once invited to speak by the residents and students of Aravali Hostel around 69-70, when I was the hostel secretary for Aravali. You remember that, Dr. Swami?
I remember troublemaker.
Thank you. Here was a charismatic professor who had just come from America, Harvard credentials, who was and still is extremely handsome, stylish, articulate, a strategic expert on China, and of course an authority on economics. I remember he talked on guns and butter diplomacy of China those days. And not only that, he also mimicked the sound of the firing of the bullets when he was talking about guns. And maybe he can give a repeat show of that after 40 years today. It is no surprise he was very quick to rise to political stardom. So much so, by early 70s, he had risen to the #2 spot in Jana Sangh, now BJP, second only to former Prime Minister Vajpayee ji. Now, you would not find this in Wikipedia, I bet you. Check it out, I checked it out. He's a known maverick with love and hate relationship with especially women, especially Tamil Nadu Chief Jayalalitha. They have a very nice relationship. When she's in power, he gets her, and when she's not in power, they are friends. It is also a coincidence that he's targeted by, or he focuses on the most powerful women politicians of India, starting from Indira Gandhi and now Sonia Gandhi. During my IIT days, he was labeled as that Videshi professor by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and that was because he had started knocking down the roots of then the director of IIT Delhi, Professor Dogra. That was the time I was with him too. We shall soon hear on that score when he presents his keynote address, especially why Sonia Gandhi is yet to challenge him in the courts. Not many people know the kinder and humanist side of Dr. Swami. If Rajat Gupta, the famous or now infamous CEO of McKinsey, acquired his Harvard credentials, it was partly due to strong recommendation of Professor Swami for Rajat to then Nobel laureate and Dr. Swami's colleague Paul Samuelson. Such was his relationship with Professor Samuelson that Professor Samuelson, in his personal letters to Dr. Swami, will always start his letters with, and I quote, "How is Gitanjali?" Unquote. That time his younger daughter Suhasini was not born, so Professor Samuelson will always address his older daughter Gitanjali. I also recall being very impressed with his humble, and I'm using my word now, hippie-ish. His wife was very hippie-ish, would wear a khadi and have a nice sling-on khadi bag, and be at the IIT campus would see her. Brilliant wife, Dr. Roxana, serving as the Supreme Court advocate presently. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the firebrand, the Pataka, you know Pataka, firebrand, fireworks? Pataka, pride of India, who has pulled all the stops to bring the black money of India back to India. Thank you very much for this honor, and may I present to you my guru, Professor Swami.
Dhirubhai, Subhash Razdan, members of this august gathering. We are into, in India, the third major struggle for the upliftment of our country. If India is strong, you people abroad will also lead a life of security and prestige. Today, Indians are suffering in many countries. They are suffering within India too, but they are suffering for being Indians in other countries. In Fiji, an Indian, a person of Indian origin was elected to become the Prime Minister, and the military then intervened and said, we cannot have an Indian as Prime Minister anymore, even though the Indian community is the majority. Now the problem is taking root in Malaysia. It's a problem in Bangladesh. And it's now becoming a problem in Nepal, Kazakhstan, Guyana, Mauritius. So this is because India's reputation in the world is as a country which cannot defend itself or defend its people. Therefore, what is happening in India, even though India may be far away from you, and you may be concerned with your day-to-day activities in this country, you have to take interest in what's going on and contribute to the extent you can, because India's strength will ultimately translate into your strength in this country. You take an example of the Chinese. No country in the world would touch a Chinese or debase the history of China or run down its leaders because of the strength that China exudes. So, when I speak to you about India, I would like you to keep this in background, that your welfare is tied up with our welfare. Your security is tied up with our security. We launched a struggle for freedom from the British. People living abroad contributed heavily, those in England and the United States particularly. Even those in Germany, in Singapore, in Vietnam in those days, Burma. Indians abroad contributed heavily to the freedom struggle. Subhash Chandra Bose couldn't have emerged as a hero for the country had not the Indians overseas supported him. Then we had this struggle against the emergency, that is, struggle for democracy. And that was entirely conducted outside the country. Because those who could conduct it within the country were all in jail. And there was censorship. People didn't know what was going on. It is the overseas Indians who made it possible for people like me to speak about what's happening in India, and through the Voice of America and BBC, reach the people of India. Through the underground literature prepared here, reach the people of India. And that is why when Mrs. Gandhi declared elections, the people were ready with facts, and they voted her out, her party out, and she herself lost the elections. So that also you have contributed. Now we are on the third major struggle, which I think should be the last struggle before India becomes a great country, and that is the struggle against corruption. This has weakened our country, our leadership, to the point where we cannot stand up to any country. If there is a terrorist attack in India, we know where the patrons are, we know who has motivated it, who has financed it, but India is unable to do anything because corruption has made them weak. If you make a lot of money and transfer it abroad through the Hawala agents are known to foreign countries, particularly our neighbor Pakistan. And therefore leaders are afraid that they may be exposed. When Saddam Hussein sold oil for food, in the name of oil for food, and gave free chits of barrels, millions of barrels of oil to two of our politicians belonging to the Congress party and to some of our top industrialists, so that they could just go and use that chip and give it to a refinery, the chip to the refinery, and make millions of dollars. Some of their names were kept out in the final report of Volcker, because that became a tool for blackmailing our leaders. So the struggle against corruption is not just a moral struggle. It's a struggle for national security. And therefore, when I speak to you about money deposited abroad and how it can be brought back, as Baba Ramdev wants, and the problem of corruption, I'm going to speak to you in three parts. First, what is corruption? Two, because this word corruption is being used quite loosely now. It is being particularly used loosely by Congress party. When they say, Digvijay Singh says that Baba Ramdev is corrupt because he takes money in cash, and this cash is black money. So he is also involved. He doesn't know the meaning of corruption. If I, as a corrupt man with lots of cash in my pocket, take a taxi ride and I pay the taxi driver in cash which I am entitled to, is the taxi man also corrupt? Just because he took the fare in rupees, in cash? Baba Ramdev takes money as dakshina and then he accounts for it. So far, nobody has been able to point out anything wrong in his accounts. So therefore, corruption is when public office is misused for private gain. That is the only corruption we are concerned with. Rest can come under extortion, cheating, fraud, and all these other words. But the law of corruption in India, the Prevention of Corruption Act, defines corruption as the misuse of public office for private gain. 2G spectrum is that. Mr. Raja misused the office of the Telecom Ministry as a minister to benefit some of his friends, and in the process he also became a gainer, his family became a gainer. Squarely within the confines of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Mr. Raja deliberately chose the price of spectrum. Let me tell you, spectrum, people ask, what is this 1G, 2G, 3G? Most people don't know what it is. G stands for generation. Even our Prime Minister doesn't know. I met him in Central Law Parliament and asked him, do you know what 2G is? He said, yes, Sonia G and Rahul G. You see, when I speak on a cordless phone, the wireless, the airwave goes in a long cycle and can only transmit my voice and nothing else. 2G I can transmit emails, SMS, MMS and my photographs also. 3G I can transmit my voice, my face, my video. I am on the line, I can see the person who's picked up the phone on the other end of the line. And the difference is in the frequency of the waves. And you have to therefore partition the sky to see these waves don't collide with each other. And therefore sky itself becomes a limited resource which has to be allocated. So there has to be a price fixed for it. Mr. Raja fixed the price of 2001 when it was 1/10 the price in 2008. Had he fixed the price of 2008, India would have got 1,76,000 crore rupees more. That's $40 billion. Enough to, get your infrastructure cleared. Enough to build 100 universities in addition. What a loss of money. And how did Raja decide this alone? Is the Prime Minister not involved? Well, in 2006 the cabinet decided that Raja and another minister, the finance minister, Mr. Chidambaram, they too should decide together, and what they decide shall be final and the matter shall not be referred to the cabinet. This was a decision, right or wrong decision was that decision. So the final document of deciding the price of 2001 was fixed by signatures of two ministers, the finance minister and the telecom minister. So if Raja is in jail for fixing the price of 2001, how can we leave Chidambaram out of it? So I have a petition saying that Chidambaram also should be sent to jail. That is being heard on the 24th of August. Once Chidambaram goes, then somebody else will also go. And that will be the son-in-law of Sonia Gandhi, Vadra, who owns 20% in one of the telecom companies. And if Vadra goes, then you know where it will go. Already they are saying that there are so many Tamilians in the TR jail that the cook of the jail is now being taught how to prepare masala dosa and idli. But I have written to the superintendent saying that please start preparing for pizzas also. And spaghetti, yeah. Two companies got license, Swan and Unitech, who are not even telecom companies. They are real estate companies. And after they got the license by skullduggery, they sold it to two foreign companies. One was called Etisalat and the other is called Telenor. And there is a Home Ministry advisory which was known to Chidambaram and it was known to Raja that under no circumstance any business should be given to either Etisalat or Telenor, because Etisalat, this advisory was before the licensing, because Etisalat is suspected to be a front organization for the ISI of Pakistan. And its India office is CEO, MD, is Shahid Balwaz, who's a builder, also the head of Swan, and he is the right-hand man of Dawood Ibrahim. It's a Home Ministry report. Advisory. Telenor is a company which Norwegian, but its business is in Pakistan and Bangladesh. Its telecom equipment is bought from the Chinese People's Army. And the Home Ministry advisory says that this equipment can also double for cyber warfare. And if there is a war between India and China, the same telecom equipment can be triggered for the purpose of making all your defense computers fail. There is a national security question. And this was done because these people are greedy for money. $40 billion lost to the country, of which $12 billion was paid as share. Not all of it went to Raja. In fact, only a small portion. $12 billion means 60,000 crores. 60,000 crores means Raja didn't get all of it. He got only 3,000 crores. Chidambaram got 5,000 crores. And Sonia Gandhi got 36,000 crores. So how much is left? 3, 5, 8, 36, 44. 16,000 crores went to Karunanidhi. Understandable, because he's got 3 wives. So all these are documented. I wrote all this to the Prime Minister because I need his clearance to file a case. That's the law which Anna Hazare is trying to change. He wants an independent public prosecutor to be appointed who does not have to take the permission of anybody to launch a case. Very good suggestion. I wrote to the Prime Minister, he did not reply. So I sent him another letter with more documents. Then I sent him with more documents. 5 letters I wrote, no reply. 1.5 years gone. Finally I went to the Supreme Court. I'm proud to say that the Indian Constitution makes a provision that in the event the government doesn't perform its duty, the Supreme Court can intervene and perform that duty. So I said to the Supreme Court, Prime Minister is not replying, so please give me sanction and I will file the case. And the Supreme Court gave me that. And since then, people are going to jail. And now Chidambaram is so apprehensive that I might be sending him to jail. He is trying to contrive some case by which I will be jailed the moment I land in Delhi. But that is foolishness, because I know how to get out of that by going to court. There is no case against me, but they are making out some article I wrote, which they say is, it is very damaging, it is incitement, this, that. All bogus. I only said what Mahatma Gandhi said. I only said what Vivekananda said. I only said what Swami Chinmayananda said. I have not said anything extra. But in a magazine, in a newspaper editorial, op-ed page, I cannot put all this in. So therefore, if they oblige me by filing a case, I shall have fun in court. I shall prove that all these great men were also should be now sent to jail posthumously. At least the pictures should be sent to jail. Anyway, they thought that they can raise all the left wing got together and thought they will give a petition to Harvard. And shame on them, what Harvard said. We may disagree with Dr. Swami, his article may be causing pain to some people, but for us, free speech is sacred and therefore no action. Anyway, coming back to the problem, this was a gross misuse. And this gross misuse led to a huge loss. And this is not the only case. There is illegal mining cases, illegal coal mining, Commonwealth Games, Everything there is corruption. And the people are getting fed up. And therefore, when this whole thing erupted, people arose because they saw action coming. They didn't want walkout in parliament. They didn't want speeches anymore. They said, we want action. Nobody will go to jail. Well, people started going to jail, so people have now stood up. So therefore, this is the first thing, that this is the meaning of corruption. Misuse of public office is the biggest crime that you can think of. Second thing is the impact of corruption. Corruption is not one politician getting rich and some crooked fellow getting a contract. That is not corruption alone. What happens to the money? The bribe given. 60,000 crores today is gone as bribe. Where does it go? Part of it goes abroad through the Hawala route. Automatically all the people who are sending it abroad are known to Pakistan because most of the Hawala people in India have some connection with Pakistan. But more than that, a good portion remains in India, which you cannot invest in building a factory, because then immediately income tax will say, where do you get the money from? So that is spent on luxury goods. Every room of your palatial house will have air conditioner, and even bathrooms will have air conditioners. 5-6 Mercedes Benz, Lexus car, BMWs, all this drunken partying, 5-star hotels always full. Well, this is one impact, that the luxury goods industry's rate of return shoots up. Future investment comes out of cloth and other common man's requirements. Because why? That's a low rate of return. You're getting 25% in your luxury goods industry. So the future investment goes into this. And I have shown by calculation that 70% of our investment is now going directly or indirectly to produce luxury goods in our country. This is a shame on a country which has 300 million people below the poverty line. This is one impact immediately because of black money. Second impact is real estate prices. You can't get a decent apartment in Bombay today for a middle class for 25 lakhs. Why is that? Prices have shot up. Even if there's an economic crisis, if there's a financial crisis in America, real estate prices come down. But in India, any crisis comes, real estate prices never come down, because all black money generated. Similarly, our stock market is rigged today. Why? Because if you deposit your money in Switzerland or any of the what is called as safe banking or secret banking, you will not be paid interest on it. They will charge you a service charge. So Switzerland gets 2% service charge on how much money has Indians got? Some say $500 billion, some say $1.5 trillion. In either case, it's a huge amount, 2%, for doing no work, for putting the money in the bank. And then Switzerland lends it out to American companies at 4%. So 6% for not doing any work. If you bring all your money back, then Switzerland is gone. Their economy is in big trouble. So therefore, this money, one day Sonia Gandhi complained to Chidambaram when he was finance minister, this is not fair. We are putting money there and they are charging us. So he devised a new financial derivative called participatory note. What is a participatory note? All committees set up by India on financial reforms oppose this. Tarapore Committee, SEBI, that is the Security Exchange Bureau of India, Reserve Bank, they all oppose it. But what is this participatory note? You take cash and go to Fidelity Investments or to Morgan Stanley and say, I'm from India, is my passport, please give me a participatory note, take this cash. These companies will take the cash because it's legal to take cash under Indian law from an Indian, because the laws have been changed accordingly in India. And with that participatory note, you come into India and you go to the mutual fund and say, please invest in the stock market. $61 billion came in 1 week once. $61 billion. And the stock market anytime can go up, anytime can be made to come down. You buy, it goes up, and then you sell, and it comes down. When you sell it at the top, you get rupees. You take with your participatory note certificate, go to Reserve Bank and say, please convert all this into dollars right away. And under the Indian law, new Indian law, Reserve Bank has to convert it and give it to you in dollars or pounds or whatever you want. And then you take it out, legally to take it out, you can take it out. Only problem is you have to pay capital gains tax. That also Chidambaram found a way. You bring that money via Mauritius, set up a $1 company in Mauritius, and that $1 company comes to India and then invests in the stock market. Poor Mauritius, such a poor country. So we have made a special law that any Mauritius company investing in India will be exempt from capital gains tax. We all pay 25%, but Mauritius 0. And now Mauritius has become the largest investor in the Indian economy, more than the United States, 3 times more than the United States. A country which has only beaches and gambling casinos, today is investing more than the richest country of the world, United States of America, because of this. Then there's a new thing that's happened. The laws were changed to allow forward trading in food grains, sugar, and all these agricultural commodities. So this black money was used to buy it as soon as it left the farms and put it in the godowns. Artificial shortage, inflation went up. India is growing today at 9% per year, but inflation is growing at 16% per year. Prices are going at 16% per year. I teach in my class that if supplies increase, then prices will fall. But here in India, it is opposite. Supply also going up, prices also going up. In fact, it's going up even more because of this fact. Speculation in food grains. It's a criminal act because the poor people are the ones who suffer. The vegetable prices, sugar prices, oil prices, wheat prices, rice prices, everything rising. So the impact is tremendous. So we have to cure this, otherwise this country will fall apart. So the impact is tremendous. So we have to cure this, otherwise this country will fall apart. And all these people who made money, they can go and live in Switzerland afterwards or some other resort town. I know that one politician has bought a big part of Aga Khan's property in Sardinia Island, which is off the Italian coast. You know who I'm talking about. Because those who have fallen sick, I should not speak ill of.
Exactly. You're right.
So therefore, that is what they will do. They will have no stakes in this country, in our country. They'll leave. So what do we do? How do you get this money back? How can you prosecute these people? That is the thing that I have found out, that India, we have a provision under the Constitution where the Supreme Court can intervene, empower individuals. I have myself asked the trial court, appoint me as a public prosecutor. So the judge said, you as a public prosecutor, how? Because the CRPC says, Criminal Procedure Code says that only lawyers affiliated to the government or appointed by the government can be public prosecutors. I said that's what CRPC says, but I am under Prevention Corruption Act, and in the clause 5 says that those who give the complaint can be appointed by the court as a public prosecutor. He said, no, not possible, read it out. So I read it out. He said, even I didn't know this. Because nobody has ever used our laws properly. I share with Anna Hazare only on one point, the need for an independent public prosecutor. Everything else is already in the present laws. And with the present laws and the help of Supreme Court, we can do it. Supreme Court also on my petition has said that the CBI will not listen to the government anymore on this issue. Anything they want to know, they have to come to the court. And there I will be present. It is a court monitoring of the CBI which is today responsible for all these people being caught. And more people to be caught. So I also filed a petition in the Supreme Court which has been heard. Namely that all licenses given, 9 companies got licenses, they all should be cancelled. And if they want to, and then an auction held. If these companies want to participate in the auctions, that's their problem. As far as the bribe money, that is their problem. We are not concerned with it. The court heard me and the orders have been reserved. I'm expecting a decision any time. And when that comes, if that comes in my favor, it will be a major blow against corruption. So we have to now ask this question, what is to be done? Many times NRIs ask me, how can we help in finding this? I say you start with one thing. Many politicians have their sons and daughters studying in America. Find out how the fees are paid. Fees are obviously paid by check. Where is the check made out to? I found out that one politician's son studied in Rollins College in Winter Park near Orlando. And the check for fees was paid from a Cayman Island bank. So if the university gives me the details, you will have to know somebody in the university. I can't just simply walk in and say, give me. And the university gives me the details of those checks. Next day, I'll send that politician's son to jail. And the politician with it. So, there are many things you can do. You can help in assimilating, lots of politicians have bought land in the United States, you'd be surprised to know. You can access the land records once I tell you the names and where they have invested. That much we can help you from India. NRIs should now set up a data bank on Indian politicians. I know one friend of mine who's now working in the Zurich airport, and he gives me vivid accounts of who comes and goes. In fact, he is the one who told me when I went to Baba Ramdev to his hospital, near Dehradun to break his fast. This fellow phoned me from Zurich. He said, "Arey, where are you? I said, I'm in Dehradun going to see Baba Ramdev. He said, you're going to see Baba Ramdev, but Sonia Gandhi is here. I said, how do you know? She said, no, she just passed through the airport. So immediately I announced in the press conference, Baba Ramdev is dying on a Amaran Anshan here, and there she is in Switzerland. Congress party denounced me, liar, cheat, fraud, everything, they abused me. It turned out to be true. So you members of the Indian community abroad can play a huge role in preparing a data bank. And that data bank can help us prosecute corrupt people. We can have short-term measures. This public prosecutor, this independent prosecutor, like here when Monica Lewinsky's matter was being discussed, they appointed Ken Starr as a public independent prosecutor. Special counsel they call it, yeah. Similarly, when Watergate tapes were there, they appointed one Harvard professor, law professor, as a prosecutor. That's a good idea. Hong Kong did it and cleaned up. Hong Kong was the most corrupt Asian nation at one stage. Now it's the cleanest Asian nation because of this one institution. Because the slowness of prosecuting people. On 8th January 2008, In Hyderabad, there was a press conference addressed by Ramalinga Raju of Satyam. He said, I have sinned and I have fudged my accounts, made a lot of money, 7,000 crores or something, and I'm ready to be prosecuted. He's still not been prosecuted.
Exactly.
He spent a good part of the time in air-conditioned hospitals
Exactly.
on bail. On around the same date, on the 7th of January 2008, in New York, there was a press conference addressed by Bernard Madoff.
Yes.
He said, I'm guilty. Ponzi scheme, I have robbed people of their pension funds. And I'm ready to face any punishment. In 6 months, he was convicted for 44 years and $8 billion fine. 6 months only. This is also a democratic country. So that kind of speed we want. Here in this 2G, prosecution it's already started. By December, many people will be convicted. But it will not be over because it is all to be done in installments. Too many people are involved. We don't want all of them at the same time in the court. They will all come with 10 lawyers, high-priced lawyers, and create obstacles and obstacles. So we would like to do it in installments, this conviction. But I am not going to let go till I find the last person. And you know who that last person is. So therefore, it's not difficult to prosecute, but I think we should think of a long-term solution. Why are we becoming so corrupt? We were not corrupt before. Before 1750, any foreign traveler who came to India, he wrote, India is the most honest country. The Chinese, Fa Xian and Yuan Chong came. First thing they wrote is, such honest people. Vasco da Gama said, these Indians, they don't even lock their doors when they go out in the night. Such honest people. Mark Twain, he also said the same thing. Where did this transformation take place? People say it is because of liberalization. No. Our corruption after the freedom struggle started because of socialism. Licenses and quotas being auctioned in the black market. If you knew a minister, you got the license, you became a tout, and you became rich without doing any work. You arrange for licenses and quotas for the private industry. But after economic reform, which incidentally the blueprints were prepared by me as Commerce Minister, and Narasimha Rao implemented it. But the media chose to give the credit to Manmohan Singh. If Manmohan Singh as Finance Minister could bring so much reform, how as a Prime Minister is not able to bring any reform? When I was one day going on insisting, when are you going to give me sanction? Somebody told me, why are you giving him trouble? He's got a higher sanctioning authority whose sanction he has to get first before giving you sanction. So, therefore, I'm saying that you have to think what has changed fundamentally. What has changed is that globalization has successfully eroded, I wouldn't say cut off, eroded our connections with our ancient values. I remember when I first came as a student to Harvard, my classmate asked me, American, how could you you people accept Mahatma Gandhi as your leader? So I said, why in America you'll not be leader? He said, in America we'll put him in jail for indecent exposure. Because Mahatma Gandhi had just a piece of cloth. I said, in your country, how do your leaders dress? He said, they must be dressed very well. Must have good tie, coat, all these will be commented. You can see the leaders here in the Western world, very well dressed, all of them. Similarly, the spiritual leaders also. The Pope is so well dressed. The Mullah in Iran is so well dressed. But in our country, the most venerated people are those who are least dressed. Why is that? That's the value. So I said, where does it come from? So I went to study our scriptures and I found there was a debate between Rishi Bhrigu and Rishi Bhardwaj. And Bhardwaj says we must structure society that is stable. So Bhrigu says there's only one way. There are 4 sources of power in society, decentralize them. She says, which 4 sources? She says, knowledge, weapons, wealth, and land. These are the 4 sources. So those who have knowledge will not have weapons, will not have wealth, will not have land. They will be called Brahmins. Those who have weapons will be called Rajas. But they cannot make policy on when to go to war, what to punishment to give for offenders. They will have to consult those with knowledge, treat them with respect, go to their hut, wash their feet, or bring them to the palace, to the Rajya Sabha, and make them sit in a high pedestal and seek their advice. Those who make money, there's nothing wrong with that, but their social prestige will not be dependent on that. If they want to raise their prestige, they must give philanthropy. Those who produce must definitely produce for the people. They were called Shudras. And were not connected with birth. That is why Valmiki was belonging to the Dalit, who were temporarily those sections of society which were pushed out for some social offense. But their children, Valmiki was a child of a Dalit parents. And he became Maharishi, he wrote the Ramayana. Veda Vyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, he was the son of a fisherwoman. Kalidasa was a hunter, the greatest poet. Vishwamitra, who was the Rishi of Rishis, was born in a Kshatriya family. Ravan was a Brahmin. And this Karunanidhi did not know. He was holding Ravan Leela, saying that he is our Dravidian god. There is no such thing as the Aryan Dravidian, because now the DNA studies show that we are all the same people. All attempts to, color of the skin has got nothing to do with race. That is pigmentation. You know that Michael Jackson took out his pigmentation, he began looking like a white man. So, but the DNA is the race determined. And that all studies, University of Cambridge, Houston University, in India, Mysore, all of them say only one thing: Indians have the same DNA distribution everywhere, irrespective of caste or varna. So we are one people. But this Karunanidhi was brainwashed by the British. He did not know. Once I persuaded the Chinese to open Kailash Mansarovar. So Deng Xiaoping was the leader of China. He said, on one condition, you'll go first. And I went. It was a hellish task to go climb 18,000 feet and cross into Tibet. I became the first to go after 35 years. They had closed it for 35 years. And now, of course, every year batches go regularly. On the way to Mansarovar, I saw a big lake. I asked the Tibetans, what is this? They said, my guide, he said this is called Ravan Haranga. So I said, why Ravan Haranga? He says, Haranga means in Tibetan lake. But Ravan was somebody from India. Then I remember that Ravan was a Shiva Bhakta Pujari.
Yes, he was sure.
And he did tapasya in Mansarovar area. So I said, well, then let me go and have a little dip in that Ravan Haranga. They said, no, don't go there, it's all poison. That water, if you drink, you will get very sick. So in mischief, I filled a bottle of that water and gave to Karunanidhi and said, please drink it. This man was a great bhakta of Shiva. Shiva would come anytime he wanted. But he broke the law. So, he had to be killed. And that's why the war took place. Because Rama respected the institution, even though he was a Kshatriya, he respected the institution of a Brahmin. And therefore, after killing him, he went and did puja in Rameshwaram, Brahmahatya Dosha Nivaran. So, therefore, our society was built on this principle where knowledge was put at the top. We are now saying we are in a knowledge economy. India has always been a knowledge economy. But the whole system has got spoilt because of this birth. When somebody says to me, very often I get invitations from Brahmin Association, I said, first you prove you are a Brahmin. There was one chap who once was pleading with me that I must do something for Brahmins. I said, you're a Brahmin? He said, yes. I said, where do you work? He says, I'm executive director in Bata Shoe Company. I said, that's not the work of a Brahmin. So, consequently, this is how our respect for other virtues than money came. And today, all that is gone. Now it's money. How big a wedding you can arrange, how big a house you have, how many Mercedes you have. These are all the things that are going to count it. And this kind of material, one-dimensional materialism will lead to greed, and greed will lead to corruption. Deen Dayal Upadhyay, there was a great thinker, was actually president of Jansangh for some time. He brought out a study of his called Integral Humanism, where he showed that all these other institutions ideologies like capitalism, socialism, communism will all wither away because ultimately it will destroy society. But ours is a continuing civilization. And this continuing civilization is because we brought harmonization between material pursuits and spiritual values. And that is why Mahatma Gandhi had just the loincloth. That's why Ramdev has got thousands of crores, but you see him how he's dressed. All our Swamijis are dressed like that. And does material prosperity ultimately bring you happiness? If it was so, then why is it that all rich Americans are there in Sri Sri Ravi Shankar's ashram, Swami Dayanand's ashram, Ramdev's ashram? They're all there. I remember one American woman telling Sai Baba, Puttupati Sai Baba, Baba, I want peace. Please tell me how. So he said, you want peace? Then get rid of I, get rid of want, and you will have peace. Because in those three words, I want peace, get rid of I, want, and peace. So get rid of ego, get rid of desire, you will have peace. This richest actress, what's her name? Julia Roberts, went to Haryana for shooting. She saw people very happy, poor people. She said, there was no tension in their face. Such poor people, what is the secret? So they took her to some Swamiji, and he gave her a discourse on why Indians can be happy and what is how to achieve happiness. She was so convinced that she came back, became a Hindu, made her husband a Hindu, her children Hindu. Stephen Jobs of iPhone became a Hindu after a visit to Varanasi. And these Swamijis are now flooded with foreigners. Even I get troubled at Harvard because they see my name Swami. And if I say, no, I can't do it, they think I want more fees, so they double the fees they are offering. So, we have to ponder over this. We were the most honest society in the world according to foreign visitors. We have suddenly become so materialistic, and therefore corruption has grown in this proportion. So the long-term solution is Sanatana Dharma. And the biggest curse of India today is corruption. You've got to fight that, but in that fight you should also spread values. People said, how are you going to spread values? I said, by media. That's why I have now started a new TV station called KrishnaTV.net. Fortunately, I got all the permissions, including taking money from abroad, because the government was too afraid if they said no, that I'll go to court and get it. So might as well give it as it is. And I hope that we are able to make it successful, because we need the support of people. If you want to see details about it, you can go to KrishnaTV.net in the web, and you will see it. So we have to do that. I would say here also the temples should not be just going and doing puja and saying, God give me promotion, and here I'm giving you so much ghee and so much apples and so many bananas. So that associate education around it. Not necessarily university, but yoga classes, meditation classes, Sanskrit classes. There's one thing an Indian should learn, and no time for anything else, learn Sanskrit. And you want to know the power of Sanskrit, go to Google and type NASA and Sanskrit, or artificial intelligence and Sanskrit. Today NASA has decided that storing of knowledge in a computer, which is called artificial intelligence, should be done in Sanskrit. The last action of Bush as president was to say any college in the United States teaches Sanskrit, they'll get special federal grants. So these are the things that need to be done to bring these values back. You can't force youngsters living in America with highfalutin shlokas and so on. You have to translate it into understandable language, modern, easy to understand language. And that can be done around the temple. You should get people who can give these discourses in a language people can understand. Then only you can have a corruption-free society on the long run. Short run, yes. We will prosecute people. We will not let anyone go. We will mobilize the people. I am happy that in Tamil Nadu, Karunanidhi spent a good part of his 2G money bribing the voters. But the voters took the money and voted against him. Such was the feeling of the Tamils that when I was traveling from Salem to Coimbatore, a old lady stopped me on the way. And I asked her, what's the problem? She said, no problem, I want to know, are you Subramaniam Swami? I said, yes. She said, don't let go of 2G, huh? Don't let go of 2G. So I said, well, do you know what 2G means? She said, that I don't know, but something terrible has happened which has insulted us Tamils. So you must get rid of it. And they got rid of it. They got rid of the government. The whole country is today prepared for that. And I'm sure that we will definitely get a new government, which may, and the elections will come probably early, probably end of this year, early next year. And we will get a corruption-free government. What kind of government, what kind of formation, all this will be worked out in the next few months. I can't tell you now, because I really don't know. But we need to work it out. There are enough honest people in our country to put them together and give you a good alternative. And that's why I think that we will win this war. And once you win this war, then India will become a global power of some significance, some strength, some self-respect, and that is good for you too. That's what I want to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Your ovation tells me that something has touched your heart, and that is really, really pleasing. Well, the essence of Dr. Swami's address was, even though the task of combating corruption may be onerous, but there is always a small beginning to a gigantic task. And right here, if we imbibe, if we introspect, and feel that even though we are far away from the frontiers of the country, we can have a role to play. And one suggestion that he has given, which is very subtle, but you have caught it, is that his KrishnaTV.net, how are impressions made? Impressions are made by press, impressions are made by academia, and impressions are made by politics. Now, one aspect of press, we have been crying hoarse to feel that if NDTV or XYZ TV is totally biased, there can be an independent TV media who can strengthen the cause of Hinduism, can strengthen the cause of solidifying India. And that's what he has embarked upon. So can we all resolve today to support him in this task? He has got all the permissions in line. We need to generate funds and resources for this dream to become a reality. Do I have a hand of commitment from all of you? Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, we'll move on. Even though we know that the focus and the limelight is on Dr. Swamy today, we are all low-key today, but there are a few people to be bestowed with some records and awards, or recognitions and awards. And I will call upon the first gentleman here for the award for philanthropy. For that, I would request Mr. Ashwin Patel to come here. The award is being given for his leadership in philanthropy in creating positive image of India and Indian Americans in USA. And I would request Indu Dey to please come and help us.
Ashwin Bhai, as an individual, he has done a great work, but it is basically the teamwork which has come from Shakti Mandir. And Shakti Mandir leadership has given a lot of things to the society. So it is not just...
And on this note, let me also declare that every year we have a Hindu Consolidation Day, which is on the event of Diwali. This Diwali, Shakti Mandir, under the aegis of Ashwin Bhai, is donating food for 1,200 people. Can I hear a round of applause? Our next awardee is Ravi Punangi for journalism. Ravi, for his homage to truth by sharing news and information accurately and objectively with Indian American and mainstream audience. And our final awardee for the evening is Ram Sidhe for advocacy. Ramji for his initiative in creating positive image of India and Indians through his populist campaigns against distortion of Hindu history, culture and traditions in Western academia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you'll be very fortunate to witness one of the foundation stones that are being laid today. We have so many Hindu associations and organizations in the country, but like NFIA, there is no apex body which just caters to all of them. So what Dr. Swamy just referred to, there has to be reverberance, there has to be echo of the Hindu cry. And that cry has to touch every temple, every human being, every 2.2 million Americans here and the vast majority worldwide. So in order for us to usher that kind of common chord, we are trying to institute an organization today, and that is being christened as Federation of Hindu Associations of America, FHHA. And to be able to do that, I would urge Dr. Swamy in this August gathering to light a lamp as a significance of this opening or inauguration of this, and Mrs. Sneha Mehta, our leader, she will come here and help, and Mrs. Indu Dey, please. 80% of us, and we need to feel strong and proud about our entity, and we need to understand that we have a problem and we need to collectively fight against that. And finally now is the time for acknowledgement and thanks. And so we will now have question and answers, and that will be moderated by Dhiru Shah. I have one correction. The questions need not be restricted to corruption. They can be all over the place, okay? So feel free to shoot. And I think he's a very competent person to answer all of them.
Yeah. Okay.
The first question is, you wrote a letter to Dr. Singh. Have you received any response? This is from Mr. Ravi Singh.
Regarding what? I keep writing him many letters. Wrote coming to?
Before coming to Harvard, you wrote a letter and you said you will receive a response.
Yes, that is, I wrote two letters. One a 221 page letter seeking permission to prosecute Sonia Gandhi. And I didn't receive any response, which is, I did receive a kind of an acknowledgement, that's all. And I will, as soon as I go back, and as soon as Ms. Sonia Gandhi recovers, I'll go to the Supreme Court like I did for Raja and get special permission from the Supreme Court. I also wrote a letter for seeking sanction to prosecute Chidambaram, but that the court has already decided to hear my matter, so I don't need that. And in his case, his birth is safe in Tihar. There's no escape for him. Because it's here, if Raja is in jail, he has to be in jail. He is equal partner in the decision making. So these are the two letters which I wrote before coming. Any other you got in mind?
Then the next question that, Doctor, we have is, what lessons, if any, does India need to learn from China? This is from Mr. Talvi.
Well, the only thing I can say that we should learn from China is not to react to everything that you see in the newspapers about China. They don't react to you at all. They don't even consider you important to react. Chinese, 1962, I don't want to go into that, because Jawaharlal Nehru conveniently put the entire blame on Chinese and Krishna Menon. Krishna Menon reluctantly, but Chinese. Oh, betrayal. You are the one who gave Tibet away. Who asked you to give Tibet? In fact, Sardar Patel wrote to Jawaharlal Nehru, don't give Tibet away. If you have to give Tibet away, make it a condition that they must agree to the border. He didn't give it away. I'm sorry to say that Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee in 2003 went and signed the same agreement of giving Tibet away to China. There's something wrong with us. That where something is in our interest, we are just ready to give away. This Bhutan mentality we must get rid of. Like in Kashmir. How can you give Kashmir away? Kashmir is a part of India. The instrument of accession is final. That is the judgment of that is the law passed by the British Parliament when they created Pakistan. That any Raja kingdom which signs the instrument of accession, that is final and people's opinion need not be taken. But Jawaharlal Nehru said, no, wishes of the people. Why? So therefore, it is all our mistakes. I don't want to go into the past. But I tell you today, the Chinese have a very long supply line. Develop your air force. Till recently, and I have to thank Mr. Manmohan Singh for it, he has now posted a squadron of Sukhoi jets in Tezpur. Till recently, we didn't have a single squadron of air force in Tezpur. The Chinese come down, you go and bomb their supply lines. They will be nowhere after that. So it is our problem with China is only to learn this much, that they exude confidence. They talk like a power. We talk like petitioners, that's the problem. That is what you have to learn, otherwise the economy and all that will overtake them in another 10 years, I can tell you that.
The next question you have is, what's your view about Chief Minister of Gujarat about corruption?
Well, I have not heard a single instance of him having committed any act of corruption. I have heard about his performance as an administrator, nothing but praise. Gujarat, I went to Gujarat and I found out there is no power cut in Gujarat. Only state in India where there is no power cut. But Narendra Modi has one minus in him. He has no time for the party worker. He doesn't allow no time for his ministers also. I asked him why he is doing like that. He said, I have to finish projects. All my time is taken away. These people will come, they'll want chai pani and all that. Lots of time will be wasted. But in a democracy, you have to do a bit of that also. So there is resentment in the party, in Gujarat. I'm not talking about the All India party. In Gujarat, there is resentment. There's resentment even in Vishwa Parishad and RSS also. Resentment may not be, reaching to a point of revolt or anything, but it's there. And there he has to improve. Otherwise, he has performed extremely well and we are all proud of him.
The next question is about bringing PM under the Lokpal bill.
Yeah.
Effects, what are the effects and reasons?
There's no need to bring the PM under Lokpal bill. He is already under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Just bring independent prosecutor, that's enough. Under the Prevention of Corruption Act, you can prosecute the PM even today. You can prosecute chief ministers also. I have prosecuted 2 chief ministers successfully. One was Jayalalitha and the other Ramakrishna Hegde. So it's not a difficult thing at all. I don't know why they are making such a big issue of PM. It suits Sonia Gandhi. She wants him to go very quickly. People ask me, why you are supporting Manmohan Singh? I said, I'm not supporting Manmohan Singh. I know that he's a spineless creature, boneless creature, all that I know. But at least he has not taken money so far. And tomorrow I remove him and bring somebody else, he'll be not only a spineless, boneless creature, but he'll also be corrupt. So whole UPA goes, fine. Manmohan Singh goes with it, no problem. But only Manmohan Singh going, I'm not in favor. Because the next Prime Minister will be chosen by Sonia Gandhi. I don't want that power to be given to her. She is in fact the most corrupt person in India today. I told somebody that she is the Gangotri of corruption. They say, why you are defaming Gangotri? I said, okay, she is Kali Yug Gangotri.
The next question is, have Ratan Tata and Anil Ambani cheated in 2G scam?
Yes, they have, and they'll go to jail. I can tell you it's only a question of time. I don't want them to go just now, try just now, because they'll bring 200 lawyers and, what has to be done will not be done. Let us get rid of this installment and then we will work on them. But their CEOs are all in jail. Anil Ambani is in jail, Tata's is in jail. There's no question of them being let off.
The next question is, if you be a Prime Minister, what would you do to stop terrorism from Pakistan?
I've already got into controversy writing about that. You want me to... I can say one thing, which I said in my article, I'm saying it here. Terrorism is not there is a method in that madness. And that method is that they have goals to be achieved. Make those goals fail. What those goals are there in my article, I think you can always access it from the DNA, otherwise I'll give you a copy or give you the link and they can read it. So without that, just by being goody-goody, they are not going to stop. This hardcore fundamentalist Muslim, what do they say in their internal documents? That India is an unfinished chapter of Islamic history. How is it unfinished? When the Islam forces went to Iran, in 15 years they made Iran 100% Muslim. In Iraq, which is then called Mesopotamia and Babylon, in 21 years they made them 100% Muslim. Egypt in 17 years. Christians made Europe Christian in 50 years. Here 800 years of Muslim rule, 200 years of Christian rule, and you are still 80%. Even undivided India was 75%. So they say, why? Why we are not able to make India 100% Muslim? So it is a continuing, it's an unfinished chapter in our history, and that must be completed. This new leader of Al-Qaeda, Al-Zawahiri, he has said, our priority is India, United States is second priority. And so if tomorrow Pakistan comes under the grip of the Taliban, Afghanistan will follow, the next attack will be on you. So prepare for it. And Pakistan, I don't take it seriously, it's got 6 governments. Which government are you going to deal with? Civilian government, ISI government, military government, mullah government, Al-Qaeda government, and one more government, and the American government. Yes. So, there's no use talking to the civilians they may send beautiful girls as foreign minister. But what can they do for you? Nothing. They have no control. So with Pakistan you prepare that a war is coming. And let that war be decisive. Not keep your troops in the trenches. But they must go liberate the whole of Kashmir. And Kashmir, who is these people to claim that it is theirs? It is mine actually. You know why? Because Kashmir was created by Rishi Kashyapa. And I'm Kashyap Gotra, so I'm his descendant. It belongs to me. It is like Babri Masjid. Babri Masjid was built by Mir Baqi, who's a Shia. And he appointed a Mutwali. Mutwali is a hereditary post. And the latest, the most recent, the surviving, the latest generation Mutwali, he has given in writing to Ashok Singhal that we don't want this masjid, you take it. You give us another masjid built in across the Saryu river. It is this Sunni Waqf board which has entered in. There is no locus standi there. They will lose this case, I am telling you. So therefore, we have to be clear in our mind. Let us not have any misgivings in our country. Wherever there is a Muslim majority population, Hindus have no place there. Kashmir, 500,000 Pandits have been driven out, they are living in refugee camps. So therefore, I say prepare yourself, but first you must get your unity here in your country. I don't want all the 80% Hindus to unite, I want only 40%. 40% is enough to get you 2/3 majority in parliament.
Very interesting question has come. Why and how Sonia is able to control the Congress party?
The same way that the ringmaster in a circus controls the 5 lions. Your brain is brainwashed. People tell me, oh, विदेशी आई है और यहाँ बन गई अपने बहू साड़ी पहनती है टीका लगाती है नमस्ते करती है क्यों खिलाफ हो आप? I say, you see, when Ravan came to abduct Sita, he did not come as Ravan. He came with Bhagwa kapda on, and she was made to break her vow to Lakshman and cross the Lakshman Rekha out of respect for the sadhu. Don't mistake that. Don't commit that mistake. Don't be put off by that. So consequently, I am saying that she controls because we let her control. She has no qualification. She is not even past 5th class. She claimed she had got a degree from Cambridge, and I went there to lecture. They said, no such student. Then I asked them, can you give me in writing? They gave me in writing. I gave it to the Speaker of Lok Sabha, who sent it to her, And she writes back saying, my claim that I got a degree from the University of Cambridge was a typing mistake. Now typing mistake can be comma, full stop, not a whole sentence. Otherwise, put it to the Guinness Book of World, the longest typing mistake in history.
With the international treaty, is it really possible to get money back to India legally?
Yeah, I forgot, I missed that. Yes, now it is possible. There are two ways of doing it. One is the Switzerland, under the international pressure, UN, American, all that, has now passed a bill into act 2 months ago saying restitution of assets of politically exposed persons. So if you can say that a person is either son, daughter, or himself a politician, and you write to say that if they have an account in your bank, please freeze it. They will freeze it. And then proceedings will start for you to get it. So Mubarak's bank account has been frozen, Gaddafi's has been frozen. I have recommended to the government that they write down the list names of all MPs, MLAs, ministers, governors, chief justices of the Supreme Court, High Court, all that, and send it to Switzerland saying if any of them have an account, please freeze it. The next thing we can do is have an ordinance, because you need not go to Parliament and get it passed and have discussion, you can have it later. We have a provision in our constitution for an ordinance, which means the law becomes immediate, saying all accounts of Indians in Switzerland and other places, safe banking places, secret account places, are hereby nationalized. If any of the affected persons makes an application to show that this account was genuinely opened with clean money, we'll return back the account. Then under international law, all countries have to oblige. And you can get the money back. All it needs is an ordinance. But this government, you see, they cannot do it because they are all involved. When the Germans, Germans found that their civil servants had an account in Liechtenstein Bank, they wrote to the Liechtenstein people saying, government saying, give us their names. Liechtenstein said, nothing doing, we want. So the German intelligence went and bribed the senior most official of the bank and got all the accounts on a CD, and it was given to the Germans. And then the Germans, what they did, they downloaded it and then saw many countries' officials involved. So they, organized it by countries, 24 countries, wrote to all 24. Your public officials have account in Liechtenstein Bank. Do you want a copy? 23 countries wrote back, yes, we want. One country did not write. And then the Supreme Court, we went to the Supreme Court made them write back. But now they are not giving the names, 16 names. Supreme Court says, give us the name, not giving this problem, that problem, all this. So finally it will come. Then government will fall. And then there will be elections. So therefore, there are plenty of laws. Now it's not possible to keep money abroad.
The question is, why does it take a long time to prosecute a person in India? Is our judicial system corrupt?
Well, it's easy to say that all are corrupt. They are not. There are lots of honest judges. You have one Chief Justice who becomes honest, everybody then follows suit. Today we have fortunate that Justice Kapadia has an honest man, so all judges have got encouraged and they are all acting on this speedily. So it's a question of leadership. If you have a decisive Prime Minister who is honest, I'm telling you, civil service will also deliver the goods. Our problem is not that everybody is corrupt. Our problem is that the honest people don't dare to stand up. That is the problem. And that has to be rectified by ensuring through the public that honest leadership is elected.
Dr. Swami, I think the time is running.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I've got so many questions. And
they can send me emails.
Yes, probably that would be the
What's
best.
the email ID, sir?
Swami39, SWAMY39 @gmail.com.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, is it really you on Twitter or is it...
I'm on to the Twitter, yeah. Nobody dare imitate me, they'll be in jail.
Okay.
Last question.
Like, is Sonia Gandhi following you or you are?
You mean to United States? I am leaving on Wednesday, so you can keep her for the next 4 weeks or 4 months or whatever the amount is. No, she's not following me. She can't. This is my home territory, not hers.
That is Italy.
Dr. Swami has a very envious record. Only he follows women. Women don't follow. Okay. Finally, we have our new leader in the making, Swadesh Katoch. Guys, here is the man for tomorrow. Please give him a big hand. And he's here to deliver a word of thanks.
Thank you. It's too much for me. Actually, what Swamiji just said, that there are a lot of people, they come to you and they, because of last name, they say, they think they're spiritual, so they come as a disciple to, So now in Twitter, actually 1 month back, he has only 12,000 followers. And in 1 month, his DNA article, he has 18,000 plus now. Yeah, 18,000. So, and now people are asking him their horoscope, because whatever he tells today, that tomorrow he will be in jail. After 1 month, you see him in the jail. That is the... So...
I will predict that Sonia Gandhi will go suddenly to hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the next one is Home Minister is the next one in line for you. So thank you, Swamiji. You took so much time, to come to Atlanta. Your busy schedule, whatever, So, and keep on, whenever you are here in US, we want you to be in Atlanta, and we want you to be, Besides Swamiji, I also want to say thanks to Siva Agarwalji, who is always, a big inspiration for us in Atlanta. He always hosts our shows and inspire us to do a lot of things. So Shivji, thank you. Thanks for your... And I want to say thanks for Ashwinji and all other Shakti Mandir members who's always, supporting us and all our events. And besides this, I want to say thanks to Ram Siddhi, Amitabh ji, Subhash ji, and Sneha Benji. So thank you everyone. And besides that, for audio system, I want to say thanks to our Sandeep Savla ji and press members here who are sitting here. Thanks to you all too. And most probably, most at the end, I want to say to all the Indian organizations who are helping to make this success. And at the end, all the volunteers who helped me in outside or here and everywhere they help us. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much. I forget, I want to say Jayad Bhai for thank you, Ashiana Restaurant. He always helps us. So thank you.